Your enthusiasm for our tales inspires us to weave even more compelling stories. We deeply value your encouragement on this creative journey and hope this narrative strikes a profound chord with you. I fully acknowledge that my actions deserve the harshest judgment. I made a terrible mistake, broke the trust of someone I held dear, and failed to honor the love given to me. No matter how desperately I wish to undo the past, it remains an unattainable hope. My former husband, Daniel, and I shared half a decade together. During that time, he surrounded me with steadfast affection, pouring warmth, care, and gentleness into our life. At first, I cherished his devotion, basking in its comfort, but over time, I began to take it for granted. Gradually, his unwavering kindness started to feel burdensome, or so I wrongly thought. Daniel was, in every way, exceptional. He excelled at finding balance, exuded positivity, and gave without reservation. Yet, I started to see his generosity as a weakness, his perfection as suffocating. It was as if he gave himself to me completely, holding nothing back, almost saint-like in his love. He dreamed of building a family, eager to welcome children, but I wasn't prepared. I argued we should focus on our personal growth and security before considering parenthood. Then, I made a choice that still torments me. I decided against having children with him, and questioned whether I wanted to remain by his side for life. I trained as a hairstylist, spending 2 years in small-budget salons before landing a job at a prestigious salon located on the first floor of an opulent hotel. There, I quickly connected with the salon's owner and manager, Evelyn, who was just a few years older than me. The salon carried her name, a reflection of her dazzling presence. Evelyn was captivating, graceful, slender, and impeccably refined, but she held a cynical view of men, believing they chased only fleeting pleasures and were unworthy of true devotion. She preached using them rather than loving them. Having been married twice, once on a whim and once for convenience to a wealthy older man who bestowed upon her an apartment, a car, the salon, and considerable wealth, Evelyn moved through lovers effortlessly. She'd remark, "A winning smile, sharp wit, and a few clever moves, and any man is yours to command." Her perspective began to influence me. She persuaded me that life was short, urging me to embrace it fully, and slowly, Daniel's steady love began to seem lackluster by comparison. One night, Evelyn introduced me to Michael, her latest romantic pursuit, who was in town for business and staying at the hotel. We three dined at the hotel's restaurant, and Michael's focus soon turned to me, his interests clear. Evelyn, unperturbed, encouraged it. I gave in to his charm, and that night, we shared a private moment in his hotel room. The next day, facing Daniel and Evelyn was unavoidable. I concocted a story to confess to Daniel, who in his boundless love, forgave me as he always had. To my surprise, Evelyn was unbothered, stating, "No man is worth a fight. If he's your type, have him. I've already moved on." My bond with Michael deepened quickly, with Evelyn covering for me as I deceived Daniel. Then Michael declared his love, insisting he wanted me as his wife and refused to share me, especially with my husband. By then, I was completely enthralled by him. With only days before Michael's departure, he urged me to confront Daniel and make a decision. Telling Daniel felt insurmountable. His unwavering devotion made leaving him far harder than if he'd been unkind or aloof. His perfection, however, irritated me, and I longed for a concrete reason to justify my exit. In desperation, I hatched a plan and enlisted Evelyn's help to seduce Daniel. To my astonishment, she agreed, relishing the challenge. But the next day she returned, visibly irritated, saying, "No man has ever resisted me, but your husband? All he said was, 'I love my wife.' That's it." For the first time, guilt stabbed at me, making me question my choices. Evelyn, undeterred, suggested another scheme. On my day off, I prepared an extravagant dinner at home, complete with copious amounts of alcohol, though Daniel rarely drank. We invited Evelyn over, and she slipped something into his drink unnoticed. Soon Daniel collapsed unconscious. Together, we carried him to the bedroom, undressed him, and tucked him in. Evelyn then disrobed and lay beside him. Looking back, I see the depths of my betrayal. How cruel and foolish it was to deceive a man who loved me so purely. The next morning, I staged a confrontation, catching them together. A fierce argument ensued. Daniel, confused, swore he remembered nothing, but I refused to listen. I packed my things, called a taxi, and declared I could never forgive his supposed betrayal. Playing the wounded victim, I discarded my wedding ring and apartment keys, grabbed my bag, and left, leaving Daniel broken and guilt-stricken. Evelyn smirked as I walked away. I joined Michael at the hotel, and 2 days later, we left for his home in New York. Daniel and I finalized our divorce quickly, as we had no children, and I made no claims to our shared assets. A divorce notice was sent to him, and that was the end. At first, life with Michael was magical. 2 months of extravagant affection, attention, and gifts. But soon his true character emerged. He became controlling, erupting in jealousy over trivial matters while openly flirting with other women himself. When I expressed my wish to have a child, he forced me into an abortion and isolated me, forbidding contact with others and eventually confining me to our home. The man I once thought perfect had become a tyrant. As his mistreatment worsened, my thoughts turned to Daniel, and I cursed myself for the pain I'd caused him, for my betrayals, for destroying our life together. The days and nights became unbearable as I mourned what I'd lost. I missed Daniel beyond words, but the damage was irreparable. One day, unable to bear Michael's control any longer, I tried contacting Daniel, only to find his number disconnected. Even Evelyn was unreachable, having vanished from my life. At my breaking point, I resolved to leave Michael and return to Daniel, clinging to the hope that his love for me endured, that he awaited my return, ready to forgive. When I arrived at the apartment we once shared and rang the bell, Evelyn answered. She was unrecognizable, no longer the glamorous, confident woman I knew, but quiet, serious, and heavily pregnant. She invited me inside, and I was struck by the changes. New furniture, a cozy nursery. The sight hit me like a blow. Over tea in the kitchen, Evelyn shared her transformation. She'd endured hardships in her past, but Daniel had shown her the true meaning of love. After I abandoned him, she stepped in, helping him heal his broken heart. Now they were together, and she was expecting his child. Looking me in the eyes, she said, "You didn't value him. You discarded someone truly extraordinary." I was speechless. Evelyn continued, describing the day I left. Sensing something was wrong, she returned to the apartment and found Daniel attempting to take his life. Had she not intervened, I would have lost him forever. She saved him. Evelyn, once so dismissive of men, had discovered love's true depth through Daniel, caring for him when I had forsaken him. Now they were building a family. "You're pregnant with my husband's child?" I asked, struggling to process it. She nodded firmly. "No, I'm pregnant with my husband's child," she replied, showing the wedding ring on her finger. They had married 6 months earlier, soon after learning of her pregnancy, and were now a family. Evelyn warned me against reaching out to Daniel. "After all you've done, he likely wants nothing to do with you," she said coldly. "I'll protect him with everything I have." Her words left me reeling, as if the ground had collapsed beneath me. I had lost Daniel, not just once but forever, and it was entirely my fault. I stumbled out of the apartment, dazed, overwhelmed by loss. I pointed fingers at Michael, Evelyn, even Daniel for moving on so quickly. Part of me clung to the delusion that Daniel still cared for me, but the truth was undeniable. I had lost him forever, and there was no going back. When I returned to the apartment and rang the bell again, Evelyn opened the door. She was no longer the polished, self-assured woman I'd known, but subdued, earnest, and visibly pregnant. She welcomed me in, and the transformed apartment, new furniture, a charming nursery, struck me like a physical blow. As we sat in the kitchen, Evelyn shared her story. She'd faced pain in her past, but Daniel had taught her the meaning of genuine love. After I left him, she was there, helping him rebuild his life. Now, they were a couple, and she was expecting his child. "You failed to cherish him," she said, her gaze piercing. "You threw away someone truly rare." I had no response. She recounted the day I left, how she'd returned to the apartment, sensing trouble, and found Daniel on the verge of ending his life. Her intervention saved him. Evelyn, once so cavalier about men, had learned love's true value through Daniel, nurturing him when I had abandoned him. Now they were creating a family together. You're carrying my husband's child? I asked, barely grasping the reality. No, my husband's, she corrected, displaying her wedding ring. They'd married 6 months ago, soon after her pregnancy was confirmed, and were now a family. Evelyn made it clear I should not contact Daniel. He probably wants nothing to do with you after everything, she said, her tone icy. I'll fight for him with all I have. Her words shattered me, as if the earth had given way. I had lost him forever, and the fault was mine alone. I left the apartment in a fog, consumed by loss. I blamed Michael, Evelyn, and even Daniel for finding happiness so soon. In my heart, I wanted to believe Daniel still loved me, but the truth was stark. I had lost him for good, and there was no undoing it.